You're listening to the Sensuality Project podcast, where the messiness of real life gets sexy, hosted by Stacey Herrera. This podcast is intended for mature audiences only. Episodes contain profane language and topics of a sexual nature that may not be suitable for children. Listener discretion is strongly advised. Welcome to another episode of the Sensuality Project podcast. I am your host, Stacey Herrera. Thank you so much for joining me. I am so happy to be here. It's a great day to be a human. It's a great day to be a human. And on this week's episode, I am chatting with Kerrie Wearing. This was such a great conversation. Kerrie is a psychic medium soul coach, and it was our very first time talking. We had not met previously, and we got along so fabulously. We had so many things in common. Like, we had so many aligned spaces, like you ever meet someone and it just seems like they are where you are. So we kind of had that. It was fucking fantastic. We cover so many things. We cover so many things, from dating to relationships and child rearing and empty nesting and sexuality and so many. Divorce. We talk about even divorce. It's a great episode. You are going to love it. So tune in now. Okay, let's start with a riddle. Okay, so I'm going to give you 3 clues, and you try to figure out what the item is.
Oh, goodness.
I should tell you that I never get these right when I'm on the receiving end. So
yeah, I don't like my chances either.
There's only been a few people that have gotten them, and again, like it's definitely not a strong suit of mine, so don't worry. Okay, so clue number 1. I need licking before pricking. Clue number 2. My end slides in a very small hole. And number 3, I can slip out at the wrong moment. What am I?
I have no idea, but what's coming to mind is a finger.
That's a good choice, actually. It's thread.
A thread. Okay,
yeah,
so you need to lick it before you put in the needle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the hole of the needle is small, and usually right when you're getting ready to do something, it slips out of the hole.
Yeah.
But it could have been so many things.
It could have been so many things. My mind was going.
Absolutely. So earlier we were talking about change and discomfort. And it's funny because I've been having a lot of conversations in the last couple of days about change and discomfort and also the resistance. Because so often, a lot of people, and I have sometimes been this person, is that we're just more comfortable being unhappy than we are being uncertain, which is why we sometimes stay in situations or in relationships even that we know are not good for us, but because unhappiness is easier than being with the unknown of what happens next, or who am I going to end up with, or where am I going to end up even. Have you found that? Have you had that experience, and does that come up for you? Yeah, like now that you've been doing your own work for so long, like is that something that still comes up for you?
Certain. It is. Sometimes it is that case of better the devil you know, isn't it? But I guess one of the things for me is that once I sort of am aware of my truth, whether I'm unhappy or whether I need to make a change, once I'm aware of that, it's very difficult for me to not move forward in making that change, because I'm well aware that on a soul level it's what I need. Saying that, though, while I'm sort of adjusted to knowing that change is a constant, I still do have to go through discomfort and go through the unknown and the uncertainty of what's ahead. And right now in my life, I'm my youngest child looking at moving out, and it's sort of the end of an era I'm facing, like my parenting role changing dramatically, and it's what I've known for the last 25 years,
Right.
And that's just one change that's happening, but that's probably the one that's causing more of the emotional stuff. And I just sort of then tend to rely on my day-to-day routines or practices and just breathe, breathe and move slowly to get through the discomfort and the uncertainty.
Yeah, it's interesting. My daughter, I only have one, and she actually is currently looking for an apartment.
There you go.
Yeah, so I totally get that. Like right now, of course, she's still looking. So there's like, okay, it's close, but not here yet. But it's interesting because even though going into being a parent, that it's the one relationship, whether we actually think the thought or not, but it's the one relationship that we enter with full awareness that eventually this person is going to leave us, even if it's just a physical leaving of our, home environment. Whereas other relationships, that's not our perspective at all. You're supposed to stay forever. So, but even knowing that when the time comes, there is definitely this feeling of almost this, like a void that feels that, and it's very visceral. It's very physical. It's very much in the womb space. Have you felt that?
Yeah, totally. It's very much within. It's sort of like, it's almost like a big purpose in your life is completing, and also too, that the new dynamics will adjust and change as that they do move into their own space, and you just connect where you get together for dinners and coffee, and we continue shopping and stuff like that. But you're right, it is one of those things that you're well aware that our job is to actually, nurture them, help them grow, and then send them out into the world to do their thing, which is exactly what's happening.
Right.
But it is that thing that there is that attachment to, it's all you've known for however many years, largely. And there is a little part of me going, oh, what do I do now?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I am, as you would be, really sort of having to move through that emotional space, that just get to the other side of just, and I always find one of my key components of dealing with my emotions, and what I normally suggest to clients, is acknowledgement and honesty is a real key.
Yeah, for sure.
If we can just acknowledge and honor how we feel, be honest with ourselves instead of trying to push it under the carpet and keep going, just, hey, my head's spinning at the moment,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And not making ourselves wrong for whatever the feeling or emotion or experience is.
Yeah, exactly. It's however you feel is however you feel. Just honor it.
Mm-hmm. I just had that conversation with someone today who said to me, I have an irrational fear of losing my teeth. I know it's crazy. And I said, it's not irrational. That's how you feel. Like, that's how you feel.
Yeah, exactly. And we all have different triggers. We all have different life experiences that will prompt how we feel about things. And, I know, while I've always known motherhood is not, I wasn't here to just be a mother. I've known that. It's been one piece of my life experience, it has been a big part, so it is a big adjustment.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel the same way. It's funny because my daughter, when she was younger, she used to say, I'd like to have a sibling. And I used to say, oh no, my heart's only big enough for you. and, and then as she got older and the older and the more I grew into myself, then it was like, and it's like I had this awareness. I said, I wasn't meant to be a mother. I was meant to be your mother. Like I was meant to be your mother. And now that feels like different. Like I still feel that, but it feels very different because there are ways that my role has changed dramatically over the years. And with every phase of childhood, your role, adjusts and morphs into something different. But this transition with adulthood is a whole different thing.
It is a whole different thing, and it is a big thing. I had my oldest son. He moved states at the beginning of the year.
Oh wow! How did that feel?
Well, I think I was okay with it because I intuitively knew that this was right for him. Yeah, so I would just move into supporting him and just helping him, with what guidance he needed because. Moving into a share house and getting jobs and following his dreams down there, So I knew it was right for him. So it was just a matter of, okay, whatever you feel, even though like when I do see him, when I walk away from him, I could cry. But at the same time, it's sort of, one of those things that you just know, hey, this is not about you. This is his life, and you just have to suck it up to a certain extent.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and so so it was probably, I guess it's been good that I've had a little time between the two of them going. Yeah. But it's that adjustment. How's that aspect of your life going to look going forward, and that's the uncertainty. You don't know.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something else. It's what you don't think about. I mean, you think about just as children don't really think about being adults, they think about growing up. And as parents, we think about our kids growing up, but we don't really think very much about them moving on.
Yeah, and I think the thing too is that you just have it in your mind that it's so far away.
Right. And it is until it isn't.
Exactly. And I feel like I'm young for this to be happening.
I know.
But, I'm 50 in a couple of months, and I still sort of feel like, I'm having that empty nest and I'm only 50.
Yeah, well, I just turned 45 a couple of weeks ago, and I'm stuck on I'm like, I can't believe I'm so close to 50. How did that happen?
Yes, I did find 45 that it was harder for me at 45 than it was at 40.
Oh my God. Can I tell you, Kerrie? I have been having that same conversation. 40 did not move me or jar me, but this 45 shit?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, because it's sort of like you think you're looking at the downhill slide to 50 from that point, don't you?
Oh my God. I like physically, like even the week of my birthday, I felt so heavy, and not like I'm not having a problem with aging in general. Like I'm not feeling like, oh, I wish I was, or I remember being 30, or I'm not having any of that. It was just like this emotional, it was almost like I was really going through a rite of passage at 45 that I didn't feel at 40.
Yeah, I can totally relate. I felt that. And then you do sort of start to notice the physical.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like your eyes start to go, and just those little kind of subtle differences that happen.
Absolutely. I'm noticing, like it was a few years ago, I would sometimes look at myself in the mirror, but it was only when I turned my head a certain way. And whenever I noticed it, I couldn't replicate it. So I couldn't make it come back. But these little like wrinkles coming underneath my chin. Well, now I don't have to, they don't ever go away. Like now when I don't have to like turn and like, there they were. Now they aren't there. Now they're there all the time. Like,
it's the kind of thing though. It's such a, I don't know what's the word for it. It's like I don't know if it's oxymoron or a paradox or something, because it's the kind of thing I wouldn't want to be anyone else but who I am now.
yes, I feel the same way.
But yeah, would I still like a body of when I was 30? Absolutely.
I like my 45-year-old body, the way it looks and the way it feels, except for like the creaks. Like one of my knees sounds like a fucking door right now. Like when I move it, I'm like, do you hear that? I'm like, it sounds like an old rickety door. It's very faint, but I can feel it, so I can hear it. So it's like things like that. I have to be a lot more aware of even like things that I didn't normally have to actively exercise, like my fingers, for example. No one ever thinks like, oh, I really need to exercise my fingers. You know what I mean? But like now that I'm at this age, I'm conscious about like using a stress ball, not because I'm stressed, but because sometimes I was cleaning the sink and because of the way my fingers were pressed down against the sponge, I got a cramp. I was like, what the fuck is happening?
Oh,
like,
okay.
so like now I'm like, oh, I guess I probably need to like exercise my fingers, which is not something that you really think about doing. So there's a very different awareness living in this current version of my body that I didn't have before. And some of those things are really good. I'm also extremely aware of pleasurable sensation in a way that I never have been. That even sometimes in the shower, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, that feels so good. And I didn't have the presence of that even 5 years ago.
And I would totally agree with that. I think that as I've becoming more connected to your body,
mm-hmm.
so that you are more conscious of your health and your well-being, but I think that does extend to pleasure and other things as well with
Absolutely.
that. So I would agree, because it's the same experience for me. I'm, just in the last 6 weeks, I've started working out with a personal trainer, and that's not something I've ever done before.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing weights and things like that, and I'm like, oh my God, but I do feel an increase in my energy levels. And I'm with you, my sense of pleasure has been heightened over the last couple of years. And I think that's partly due to a greater awareness in my body. So like you, and that stuff wouldn't have been there 5 years ago either.
Mm-hmm. It's so fascinating. It's so very fascinating because there's so many things that, like, I guess it's the duality. It's the duality of discomfort and like all this pleasure and all this sensation and all. It just seems like even when you look at the simple things, like, you're just walking down the street, like what you're aware of in your surroundings feels so different.
It's true. Like I'm someone that likes to, I will normally walk of a morning, and I haven't been able to for the last few days because it's been raining here fairly consistently. But I will walk of a morning and I go and sit in my local duck pond and just connect. And sometimes I'm just so aware of my energy being connected to nature,
mm-hmm.
And just can feel the peace that it brings a sense of cleansing to my aura and just connectedness. I just sit there feeling connected to all that is. And then that sort of helps me go about my day.
Absolutely. Do you have a regular meditation practice?
I guess my views, not to the point where I actually sit down every morning and will get out of meditation and do a meditation, but it's the kind of thing that when I'm walking or
mm-hmm.
I'm sitting at the duck pond, that is a meditation for me.
Well, I'm glad that you point that out, because I think that so often it feels daunting for some people to think like, I need to make time to sit still. And that's not the only way to meditate.
That's true. And especially these days, I think we're all so busy. We've got so many um, obligations with family life, with, jobs and everything that we do. Society is just so busy that we often struggle to fit in how we can connect with our spirituality or fit in our time for solitude and just awareness. And so if we can, and I'm all for, let's just integrate it, make it easier, because if we make it easier, then you'll do it. Whereas if it is that kind of thing where, oh, I haven't got time, I haven't got 20 minutes to sit down and meditate, you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
So it's sort of when I walk, or I often sort of say to people, you can meditate in the shower.
Yes, you can. And it can be the water is soothing. That's a great place to meditate.
Yeah. And I meditate when I'm ironing.
Mm-hmm. Or washing dishes is another one.
That's right. It's just that those moments of, and it happens a lot when people drive, but not necessarily that I would say to do this when you're driving, but it's just those moments of where you zone out, where you daydream, or all of those little moments are meditation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree completely. And I do think that it's important for people to know that it doesn't have to look how someone else says it's supposed to look for it to be effective for you.
Exactly. And because I know for me, like a lot of people that I come in contact with will all talk about the fact that they can't switch their mind off. And I know for me that was the process as well. And it's exactly like that moment in Eat, Pray, Love, where she's in India and goes to the ashram or the monastery, whatever it's called, and she's there meditating, and you see the clock on the wall and it's only been a minute.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I was like, oh my God, that is so true.
Yes. Just last year I went to Vipassana, and there were a few times where, especially after lunch, and when I was sleepy, and and we'd be like sitting in meditation, and I'd be like, oh my God, like I can't believe that it's not finished yet, because it would feel like I've been doing it forever. Yeah. It's interesting though how time, even though like we know that time is a construct of our humanness, but it's interesting how our perspective changes the speed of it.
Yeah, because you can be so enjoying yourself, having a great time, and it goes really quickly.
Yes.
And then it's that kind of thing of where you're not having such a great time, and it does seem to drag out, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about, what do you think about this, the connection between spirituality and sexuality?
One of my favorite topics, I guess, and I don't often get a chance to talk about it because because I think there's a huge direct connection.
I agree.
And I guess, being that it's been my own experience in the last couple of years, where having just a couple of years ago gone through a divorce, which was a marriage of 25 years, and then leaving the marriage, I did connect to more aspects of me, that weren't embraced or allowed into the marriage, So it was a real journey, and my sexuality certainly was one of those aspects. And I certainly believe that these days that we are inherently creative, and we are. I do believe that the soul is comprised of masculine and feminine energy. And I feel like that is all connected into our sexuality. And if we're not connected to that, then we're not whole. It's as simple as that. And even our sexuality and the energy behind all of that is a creative thread. So it has influences on our ability to manifest.
Absolutely.
So so for me, it's actually probably an aspect of spiritual teaching of soul awareness that often gets really overlooked. And I think we're really only just starting to scratch the surface with it, because I feel like that there's a whole arena that really could be brought more into mainstream with it so people can connect with this more.
Absolutely. I agree completely. And I think that it's fascinating that, there back in the day, like really long time ago, there wasn't really this separation between sexuality and spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
And there's documented evidence of that truth. Like there is plenty of, like, there are scrolls in like Taiwan where they actually gave scrolls to, like, newly married or potentially, married couple that showed them like sexual acts and sexual positions and how to please one another. And then we kind of got this westernized, influence swept in and just kind of washed sex out of the whole situation, which is crazy because life continued to be sexually transmitted all this time. It's not like we ever discovered another way. Because even now with technology and, in vitro fertilization and that kind of thing, the majority of the population is still produced through copulation. That's still how it's happening in the wild. It's even flowers are fucking. It doesn't look like fucking, but they have surrogates and help. But sex is a very regular part of everything that exists. And so I think that it's we've done ourselves such a disservice, and maybe not. Maybe that's not even true. Maybe if we want to call it this dark period of us pretending that sex is bad and that everyone's not doing it, even though people keep being born, which is interesting. Maybe that is a part of this reawakening and our reconnection to our spiritual selves, and also recognizing that our spiritual selves and our sexual selves are one and the same.
That's right. And I think the whole thing with the westernization is we separated from a lot of aspects, not just sexuality. There is a lot of separation in some of our traditional Western teachings of spirituality. Like an example would be, like you sort of, there's a focus on that you've got to change and fix things because, you've got blocks, and you've got emotional baggage, instead of actually just accepting and loving yourself for who you are and just being honest. That sort of thing of where we're focused on healing blocks all the time just does create separation. So I think the separation of sexuality is another one of those aspects. But you're right, I do believe that more and more as we awaken, people will be naturally led to it. I sort of feel like if you're connected to your soul on any level and you're following that guidance, at some point, it doesn't matter when, but at some point you will, if you keep going, if you keep working with that inner guidance, you'll come to connect to your sexuality. You'd have to,
Absolutely.
It's just whether people choose to embrace and step through that door or still shy away from it, which will stifle their growth.
Absolutely. I can't imagine. I've always been a sexual person, but at this age, I definitely can't imagine. I'm like, I want to be fucking until I can't. Like,
yeah, I'm with you.
I love it so much. And even, like right now I'm discovering a part of myself that I never would have imagined. And it's so erotic that I'm like, I can't believe I didn't try this sooner. Like, like it's amazing and it's delicious. And like like the level of turn on that you experience when you give yourself permission to just accept even the stuff that seems like, oh my God, like I would never have thought to do that, or I never imagined that being me. But when you like open the door and just be like, okay, well, let's see. It's so expansive. And I wish that more people would lean in and think about how much nicer people would be if they were fucking more.
Well, there's that, and I think it also comes from the if you're connected into it through your heart space with your soul, that sense of giving to another, that's just inherently there. And it comes with the sense of giving, the unconditional love, and while that may be directed at a partner, it's something that you would walk with in your soul as a whole anyway. So imagine that going out into the world.
Absolutely. Like pleasure, physical pleasure does open up your heart space.
Yes.
You feel very different. You're way more generous. I mean, and if we say like, if we say like orgasm, for example, that's only one example of physical pleasure, but orgasms, like your perspective about everything and everyone is so much more expansive when you've had an orgasm. Your judgment is low. Like you're not like vile or snappy. You're more relaxed. Things that would normally stress you out, you have a lot more patience. Like it's just, it changes your biology, but it also changes you on an energetic level because it impacts everything. It's like a ripple effect.
Absolutely. Because one direct correlation is that if you can get in the groove of giving yourself pleasure, if you're open to receiving that kind of pleasure, then energetically you're open to receiving more as a whole. And one of the biggest challenges with manifesting anything, whether you're manifesting, your dreams, you're wanting more money, whatever it might be, one of the biggest challenges I find, especially with women, is the fact that they struggle to receive. They struggle to be able to, they're givers, they want to give to everyone, but to actually receive themselves is a whole other dynamic, a whole other challenge. And it's a big obstacle when it comes to what the success with what you're trying to manifest consciously. So giving yourself pleasure, opening yourself up to receiving in that way, which is beautiful, it's joyful, it's, makes you hungry for more.
Mm-hmm. It certainly does.
It will then have a flow-on effect to other areas of your life.
Absolutely. And it also because a lot of times when people think about manifesting, they defer to financial manifestation. And there is definitely a connection between the way you do sex and the way you do money.
Oh, okay.
That oftentimes when you can think like in your dating life, when you go out with someone and they are generous with their money, they also tend to be generous with their time, and they also tend to be generous in the bedroom. Someone that is a little bit more frugal, they usually are watching the clock, and they also tend to be kind of stingy when they're fucking. Like they're not really that concerned about your pleasure. And even if they are, they're only concerned about your validating their abilities, not your pleasure.
Okay. Yeah. I haven't, mind you, even since my divorce, my dating life is not, I've only been with 2 men since then. And the second man I'm actually in a long-term relationship with
that's
now.
Lovely. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And I haven't really had the chance or the life experience really to sort of see that correlation, but it's something I'm going to be looking for.
Well, even if you are, when you're talking with your friends or with your clients, even if you especially if you hear someone complaining about a dating experience, or a sexual experience, if you hear one of your friends and they're like, oh my God, he's like a jackrabbit, ask how fast he drives. Ask, is he, does he drive fast? Does he talk fast? Is he in a rush? Because how you do one thing is usually how you like doing the same thing, like in other areas, like the level of patience is not there. So, and it often is also the same with the way that people are with their money. Like they might be impatient about, getting payments or making payments. If they tend to be a little bit more in a rush about things, like there's a real correlation. It's quite fascinating.
Yeah, it would be, because it's sort of like a lot of people when they're driving, it's all about the destination, isn't it?
Absolutely. And the same thing in the bedroom. Like,
yes.
I don't care how long. I don't care. I don't want to be doing this a long time. But are you going to come? Are you going to come? Are you almost there? You know what I mean? It's the same thing.
Exactly. And that is a real, conscious work to actually change that it's not all about the destination. Yeah. I guess I've got one thing is, I certainly think what we're talking about here, with where we're talking about women, us connecting more to our sexuality and really waking that up, there's a real sense for me that, again, it might be women leading the way, might be women leading the way. And I know that I have, especially the last couple of years, I have a very strong sex drive. And by the sounds of it, so do you.
Oh, yeah. Like one of my favorite things to do. I love that about being human, very much so.
Okay. Do you? It's surprising for me to actually find men that are, I don't know, they're challenged by that or they can't match it,
Well, what happens is I think that, and this is my experience in dating anyways, is that it seems that a lot of the story that they've told themselves, and then it becomes the experience that they have, is that a lot of women are not that interested in sex, or the women they just want to be pillow princesses, which often is about them not being able to be receivers, or the story that we've been told, is that women are not supposed to be sexual because that makes us slutty or that makes us whorish. And so when they come across a woman that's sexually empowered, they really don't know what to do with it, because their performance then is challenged.
Yep. Yeah.
And to brush up against a woman that is not only comfortable in her sexuality, but knows that you don't have to go searching for a treasure, because I'm going to tell you how to get there. You don't have to go feeling around. I'm going to show you exactly what to do and exactly where to touch me so that pleasure can be achieved. Like, you don't have to go research it. I done the research.
Yeah.
But they don't really know what to do with that, because, even, and some of the women actually do know what they want. And some women actually do know where and how to tell you to get there. But some of them won't say anything because they've been socially conditioned that that's not okay.
Yes, and it is. I certainly think that the more we come into, self-love and a stronger sense of who we are, that those social conditions just get broken down, because you don't care.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You just go, I don't care what people think of me. I don't care that I don't need to fit into this box over here. What you care about is the need to be you.
Yes, absolutely. Like, can I be fully expressed in this space, in this connection, in this relationship? Because if I can't, then it's not big enough for me and it's not for me.
Absolutely. And that just then transpires into not just your relationships, but into the whole of your life. And I think really that in a nutshell is what our spirituality is about. At the end of the day, it's about coming into the core of who you really are and being able to express it everywhere.
Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly. This episode of the Sensuality Project podcast is brought to you by the Raising Sexually Responsible Children Masterclass. One of the things that I did really right in my parenting was raising my daughter to be sexually empowered and sexually responsible. Sex is one of the hardest subjects for parents to talk about and discuss with their kids,
And sexuality is not a one-size-fits-all conversation. It's a lifelong inquiry that begins in the womb, except for most of us are not having those conversations with our children because it's just uncomfortable. And that's why I hosted the Raising Sexually Responsible Children Masterclass. In this masterclass, I cover how to approach sexuality from both male and female identified children, verbal communication, nonverbal communication, how to create an environment where your child can feel safe sharing with you, and the most important thing you can do right away to help your child be sexually responsible now. Get instant access to the Raising Sexually Responsible Children Masterclass by visiting staceyherrera.com/responsible. There's an automatic 25% discount attached to this link. You're welcome.
I'm so excited for the space you're in.
Oh, thank you.
That is so exciting. I love, there's nothing like having a conversation with a well-fucked woman. Because you can feel the spaciousness of it. Like you can feel that the energy is so palpable. Even when people joke, especially in like offices and stuff, they might joke that, oh, look at her, like, oh my gosh, she's so cranky. She needs to get laid so bad. Like people say it so casually, but that's real. Like you can tell energetically, you can feel someone who is not allowing themselves to play with their sexual energy.
Yeah, and it is. And having been there, because that was me.
Mm-hmm.
To who I am now, like a few years down the track, it's, like there's a part of me that would be sad for people that are not connected to their sexuality in this way, because it's a beautiful experience. It's a beautiful thing. And it just does bring out all these little hidden secrets about yourself, like I didn't know that I like to enjoy playfulness in my relationship, and to be flirty and teasing and, and drop comments,
Yes.
I didn't know that was me. And I do need a man that allows me to be like that and that does play off of that, So it does, and it's just from that simple act of just giving yourself pleasure. So I would say to women out there, whether you're in a relationship or not, start masturbating.
Yep, I agree.
Start there. Be open to online dating. That's where I've met my Michael, like my guy, we met online, and I every day am blessed that I took that leap of faith.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and, contrary to popular belief, the same people that exist online live offline. People act like it's a different planet or something.
Well, I think the only thing that I would say about it is, remember, it's about your point of attraction, right?
Yeah.
So it's about your law of attraction point. And I was really, really conscious of what I wanted in a relationship was complete communication, honesty, and authenticity. And I knew that I had to be that.
Yes.
To receive that back.
Absolutely. And that's absolutely true. And, one of the things that is, there's a couple of things, because sometimes with online dating, like someone will start complaining, like as soon as you connect with them, like, messaging or whatever, they'll start complaining about their experience on the site. And you as soon as they start talking that it's like, no, that's the experience you're expecting to have. And so that's the experience you're having. Exactly.
And yeah, sure, when you're there, you actually do need your wits about you, because, you do have to cut through the crap.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, if you are in your authenticity and completely open and honest, then my experience is that's what I received back.
Absolutely. I've had the same experience, by the way.
Yeah.
You know? And then too, like even being clear, because you went into it knowing what you wanted. And a lot of times that people struggle because when you ask them what they want, they can't be clear about it. And so, of course, what you're receiving back is all muddled because you're not exactly clear about what you want. And one of the fastest, quickest, easiest way to get what you want is to know what that is.
Yep. And if that means you've got to experience what you don't want.
Yep. To do it, then that helps you get clear.
Exactly. Just keep focused on the fact that you're trying to figure that out. And
Absolutely. Yeah. But it makes it so much easier in your profile even because if you know what you want, you can put it in there. As opposed to like sometimes you come across profiles and they're only listing what they don't want. Don't message me if like, it's like,
yeah.
Okay, you're like, what is it that you do want? Why say that instead?
Yeah, and you can tell the ones that haven't really got much of an idea because they don't, or they're not good communicators because they don't say much in their profile.
Absolutely. And communication communication is the most important part of a relationship.
Absolutely. And especially like for me, having come out of a marriage of such a long marriage, where communication was always a big challenge. And I knew that was a large part, saw the end of the marriage. So going into it, it was like, well, no, I need to be me. I need to be able to communicate. And I want someone that's going to bring their baggage, but also want to work through it and communicate and talk to me with it. And I'm just forever grateful that that's what I've found. And it's a massive key, But saying that, you've got to lead the way. You've got to be what you want.
Absolutely. That is absolutely the truth. And that's true in even in friendships. It's true in the workplace. It's true at the grocery store. Like, you know what I mean? It's true every place. Absolutely.
And that's what creates your law of attraction point, essentially.
Yes.
So at this point, I just need to be wealthy to attract.
Mm-hmm. Well, and sometimes it's like being wealthy in other areas. Like, like you can be completely rich in love and you can be completely rich in presence. Like you can be rich in other areas and then the wealth gets to your bank account.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like I've always seen that I'm rich in spiritual awareness, and I am, in this space I'm in now, I'm rich in love. I'm rich in, really good stuff in my life.
Absolutely.
As much as it's shifting and changing and it's a bit of a whirlwind, it's still good stuff, Not to say, I haven't been through the ringer to get there, but yeah.
Oh yeah, the darkness is part of the deal. It's
absolutely
it's part of the deal. But that's where the good shit grows, Like as long as I've been on the planet, I have yet to see a plant grow because it happens under the cover of night. You could stare at it all day long and you still will not see it actually happen.
Okay.
Because,
never thought of that.
But the same thing like with your kids. Like how many times did you like pick your baby up and think, gosh, you're heavier than you were yesterday? You didn't see it happen.
No.
But that's what happens. It like all of our really accelerated growth happens in the dark.
Yep. And it often happens, you just don't even realize it's happening.
Absolutely.
To be honest. Yeah, because 1 minute you just take a look back and you just go, "Oh my God."
and then sometimes you get to the other side of it and the darkness isn't that bad. You're like, that wasn't even that bad. It felt like it while I was doing it, but now that I'm on the other side of it and now there's all this abundant juiciness, like that wasn't shit. Like that wasn't that long.
Yeah.
I got through it really quickly.
Yeah, and I do one of those things like I know that exiting my marriage was probably up there with in my life one of the toughest times.
Absolutely.
I've only had a couple, but it was one of the toughest. And so when I sit here going through uncertainty and discomfort and thinking about the unknown, I do tell myself, look, anything that I'm facing down there cannot be as hard as that was.
Absolutely. It's nice to have a measurement. I measure physical pain to labor pain. It's been a long time since I went through labor, and I only did it once, but I can't remember exactly what it felt like. I know it hurt more than anything I've ever felt. And so when I feel something physical now, I'm like, it don't feel like that. I can do this. Like,
yeah. But isn't that a magical thing how with childbirth, for whatever reason, we can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can remember going into my second labor with my daughter and just being at the hospital and having that moment where the pain then goes, oh, okay, I remember now. Up until that moment, I hadn't remembered what the first labor was like.
Yeah.
And then just in that moment, the brain kicked in and's gone, oh, okay, I do remember what I'm heading in for now. But then something magical happens and it doesn't take very long and you do just forget.
Absolutely. Well, I think that and it's not true for everyone, but going in the labor you're going into it knowing that what you're getting on the other side is exactly what you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And unlike when you go through other things, like you had no idea what was on the other side of your divorce.
Yes. True.
It was like, because it was giving birth to something too. But it's like, I don't know what the fuck is going to come out of this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't know. Whereas with childbirth, I mean, and not all childbirths end in what you wanted. You know, like, so there are people that their experience was traumatic. Either the process was traumatic or the result was traumatic or whatever. But I think that when going in, but you don't go into it typically unless there's a problem, ahead of time. You don't typically go into it with the uncertainty, because even though it is uncertain in your mind, though, you're getting a baby after you're going to go through this and a baby's going to be there.
Yeah, and I think that's probably where the focus is on the end result,
Absolutely.
Which sort of makes it the worthwhile and all of that. But you're right. It's most people go into it. It doesn't always turn out that way, but there's just something magical about that whole process.
Yes, and so your body doesn't hold on to the pain, the memory of the pain, because the result was a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's actually really, really interesting and something that's inspiring. Just as we're saying that, I've got to sit with that a bit more, because if that can happen, if that can happen on a soul level, that we disassociate from physical pain in that way because of the joy, then that could happen in
everything.
That could happen in everything. We could make that happen in other areas.
Absolutely. It's funny. I do really well with, I can endure physical pain. Like, I can take a lot of it. It's the emotional pain that I struggle with. Like, I don't resist physical pain. Like, I had surgery many years ago, and I actually, my nerves don't deaden when I'm conscious. So pain medication does nothing for me. Even local anesthetics, if my eyes are awake, I'm going to still feel everything. So, so physical pain doesn't bother me. But like the emotional pain, it's of course, usually when it's involving another person, because there's rarely emotional pain that doesn't involve another person.
Yeah.
It's the emotional pain that seems to stay lodged in my body. The anything that's physical, I can do without and do it without like being bitter. Several years ago, I had lost sight in one of my eyes, and the doctors were having such a hard time. And they kept saying to me, like, aren't you upset? What are you going to do if your sight doesn't come back? And I was like, oh, I'm just going to adapt because that's what my body's designed to do. But I'm not able to keep that same, openness when it comes to like my heart hurting. I'm never like, oh, I'm going to adapt, like, because that's, like, that's not how it's just so much more visceral for me. I would much rather deal with physical pain than emotional pain because I haven't been able to. And now I have to sit with it because now that I'm saying that, I'm like, okay, I'm able to be disassociated from physical pain, even in the moment when I'm in it. Like while I was in labor, I didn't take any drugs to stop the pain or anything. No epidural, no nothing. I was in labor for 16 hours and my mother kept asking me, doesn't it hurt? And I said, you've had 3 kids, it hurts. And she's like, you're not acting like it hurts. And I said, well, if I act like it hurts, does it go away? And she was like, no. And I was like, okay, then. Because like the most I would do is when I would feel a contraction is I would go, Like that was like the most. I never screamed. I never did anything.
Okay.
But when it comes to like emotional things, I am definitely more entangled in the experience. And now that I'm saying it, I really need to sit with how can I allow myself to be unattached, even while it's hurting.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the kind of thing that I'm thinking, like sitting with it and just in my world, I would, have a conversation with my higher self or something along those lines to sort of inspire more wisdom coming in around that. Because if we can do it with the physical body, I'm sure that we can find a balance somewhere to do it with our emotions. And it's a little bit, the only thing that I would say is I know for me, I have a strong relationship with my emotional self and often quite comfortable sitting in my emotions. So I generally, and I know that for me in doing that, I then receive wisdom or knowledge, guidance. I receive all of that stuff just by sort of sitting in with, okay, I'm feeling hurt or frustrated. What's really going on, So that's the only thing that I would say is just be aware that our emotions are soul talk. It's our soul talking to us. So for me, I would be looking for balance is like, okay, if we can disassociate like we do with the physical pain in that. And I know that happens in the process of death.
Yes. Yes.
Because, being a medium, I've had enough spirit communicators come through and share that with their families to ease their grief, that disassociation does happen from the pain. So we can, but surely, as we're sort of saying, yes, we should be able to take that same characteristic and transfer it to other areas. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's this is so timely because just in the last week I've had a lot of upheaval and some like old buried completely unaware things like come into my awareness. And like by Monday I was like, oh yeah, I need to go to therapy as soon as possible. And so I had a therapy appointment on Friday because I was like, okay, I'm angry. I am angry. And anger is not a feeling that I feel often. So it feels very foreign to me. And so I was I was holding so much anger. It was causing so much tension in my body. And I was like, yeah, I need to go like really like talk this out. And I'm still working through it. But I guess what it is that it's I can be with the feelings, but unlike physical pain, I try to escape it. Like, let me fix this fast, whereas with physical pain, it's just like, okay, when I feel the pain, I literally breathe through it. And when the next one comes, I breathe through it, but I don't need to like pop a bunch of pills or do something to make the pain go away. Because there is a part of me that is so aware that this is transient and it's temporary. But my reaction to emotional pain, is I'll be with it. But as soon as I start feeling it, my instinct is to figure out a way for it to stop.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Which is therefore our inability to accept and our inability and sitting in resistance. But but it's interesting because what I heard in that was basically you understanding that physical pain is temporary, but not associating that with your emotional pain, because emotional pain is temporary too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I get it logically. Like, like logically, I get it. But that is not the experience that I'm allowing myself to have.
Yeah.
And I take full ownership of it because, of course, some people have the opposite issue. Like a lot of people struggle with physical pain. Like I have zero struggles with physical pain. Like something could be really hurting me and I'm just like, it really hurts.
Yeah, that's a gift.
Like, oh, that really hurts. But like, there's never any, like my response is very minimal. Now, interestingly enough, when I went to that silent retreat last year, while I was at some point in the experience, they invite you to sit in meditation and move as little as possible. Now, of course, that also means that before you get to the space of being able to just sit, your body is resisting just sitting. And so there is physical pain. And so like, I remember like feeling some discomfort in my body and again, and also like being in the awareness that I also have this very high tolerance for physical pain. And so then I asked myself, at what age did I decide to be unresponsive to pain? And I was like 2. And I was able to see myself in this yellow dress. Like it must have been Sunday because it looked like I was going to church or something. And I had this yellow dress on and these white frilly socks. And there was something I was getting in trouble for. And I decided in that moment that I was not going to respond no matter what my mother did.
Oh, okay.
So but clearly I never made that decision about emotions.
No, but it's a timely conversation to me too, because I'm in this flux of change right now. My coping mechanisms in that is while I need to slow down and breathe and just one foot in front of the other, I actually feel like energetically and emotionally I want to retreat, right? Now, that's not good for me and my business because, my work as a psychic medium soul coach is I am emotionally and energetically heavily invested in people and my clients. So what happens is when I retreat, I then tend to resist to want to working with clients and my attraction, my flow tends to stifle. And I was asking Spirit this morning, okay, how can I do this? I can't, go into retreat mode every time something comes up, because sometimes I have no idea how long that retreat mode is going to last for. And it does have influences on my income. So I was asking Spirit, I was sort of going, yesterday and this morning, just going, okay, how can I keep working even when I'm feeling emotionally just wanting to retreat or just come into myself, how can I keep working? So what I'm hearing is the answer's in this conversation here somewhere.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. When you say you go into retreat mode, do you feel like do you give yourself a time? Like, okay, you're allowed to be in it today and tomorrow you need to move forward?
Oh, no, I don't, but I could try that, couldn't I?
Because I do the same thing. And usually like there have been days and like my office is literally inside of my closet. Like half of my closet is like my desk. It's a big closet.
Yeah.
But so my tendency when I am feeling usually it's emotional. If I'm having like an emotionally heavy or I'm feeling like I've been wrung out, like I'll give myself permission to feel all of my feelings. And usually for depending on what it is, I'll say like, okay, I'm not working today. I'm feeling all of my feelings. And if I feel like I need to cry or whatever I need to do, I'm going to do all of it today. Even if it comes in waves, I'll get up to pee and I'll eat food, and then I'm coming back to be with this feeling. And then, but I'm like, tomorrow I will do something different. And usually when I just give myself the space to like literally wallow in it, then the next day, even if I'm moving slow, I am willing to move.
Okay. Yeah. And because I tend to do, I just tend to give myself space, but then just keep moving slow.
Mm-hmm.
But I like that idea of, okay, just give yourself a day out completely.
Absolutely. I just did it. Like on Friday, I had therapy, and again, I felt wrung out. And then Saturday, I was like, today is my day off. I'm not doing anything. I literally did absolutely nothing. Like by the time I even got up to eat, like my daughter brought me food, and but like by the time I even got up to like take a shower, it was after 5 p.m. And I literally took a shower and cleaned myself up and put on new pajamas and laid back down because I was like, it's my day off. And on Sunday, I was on it. Like Sunday, I got so much done on Sunday, but I gave myself full permission. I was like, I feel fucked up and I need to recover. And I am off today, off from doing everything. I'm not taking care of anyone. I have nothing to give anyone today. And then Sunday, I was like, okay, I'm good.
Well, I'm definitely gonna give that a go, putting a time frame on it. Because I do probably drag it out a little bit longer than it needs to be by just attending to what needs to be done, albeit slowly.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because even if there's still residual feelings, I mean, like I'm still having some things to work through, but like I woke up excited today and my schedule was completely full and that was great. And yes, I still feel some kind of way, but it's not debilitating.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to try that. Thank you.
I'd love to know how it goes.
I will let you know.
I think that, and again, I am a recovering power througher, so I get it. Like, because that's my nature is to, my nature is so resilient that I often have to ask other people if I should stop. Okay. Because I can recover so fast that like, and especially like in the online space, like I could launch something that launches to crickets and not work out. And it's like, I done got a new idea before that's over and I'm already cranking out the next thing. And
that was me.
Yep. That was how I functioned for a really long time. Yep. And so I'm in recovery.
I love that phrase, recovery power through.
That's me, like, because that's how I function for so long. Whereas, some people they have a hard time starting. I don't. Like, I got an idea. I'm starting to implement tonight. Like, but that resilience that sometimes I'm like, okay, I didn't always give myself time to fully process something, or, and sometimes the process is grieving, or sometimes it's recognizing that this is still a great thing. It's just not the right time because I acted on it so quickly that it wasn't time for it to be born.
Yeah, and that's something that I've learned over the last few years too, is that, I acted on it so quickly that you haven't taken the time to fully process it, to fully bring in the because I work heavily with intuition around these sort of things. I haven't fully brought in how it really needs to be because I haven't given it that time to incubate.
Yes. Me too. Guilty as charged.
Yeah. And that is something I do so much better these days is I will take the time and I will and I've also recognized that just because I do get an idea or inspiration, it doesn't mean it's for now. It might be for, another 12 months. when it's ready for its own more divine timing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then also, like, not every idea is meant to be born.
Yes.
Which is, again, I sometimes am like, no, but this came to me. I was asleep and it woke me up and it was like a download and I put it together. Like, well, what happened? Like, because sometimes that happened. I mean, and it's, again, not to make light of childbirth, but it's the same thing. That there are often, like, a lot of times women don't even realize that they were pregnant and that they miscarry because they think, it's just a period. And then other times the child is actually formed and is stillborn. And then it's like, well, why would I need to go through that? Why would I, and it doesn't make sense to us. It doesn't make sense to us, but I definitely believe that life happens in exact order, but exact order does not mean that everything feels good.
No, that's right. And, I certainly think that we can always benefit from looking for the purpose, from looking for the purpose behind any experience, be it positive or more challenging. Because especially the hard times, I've found that it's having or connecting to a purpose with it will help you keep going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And even the most gut-wrenching experiences, they're nestled inside of it is definitely something that you needed to experience. And you're better for it. Like, you're better after the experience.
Absolutely. And I know for me in my own life, I came to my spirituality and my mediumship after having my only sibling, my brother, take his own life. So before that time, I can remember having a reading. Someone did tarot cards for me and they said, oh, look, in 6 months you're going to become really spiritual. And to be honest, at that time, I didn't even really have a concept of what the word meant.
Mm-hmm.
But absolutely, I attribute the fact that I'm connected to my spirituality and my mediumship and helping other people directly to my grief experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Grief definitely births something.
Absolutely. I see it in clients all the time. It shakes your foundations. It gets you reevaluating how you want to do life. And for me, that's the purpose in it.
Absolutely. Well, that's a beautiful story, that something so beautiful could come out of something so gut-wrenching. And it's hard to see the gift in it when you're in it. Like, it's hard while you're in the process of grieving, it can be very difficult. And you're not even supposed to be seeing it yet,
That's right. But I think even in those early days of the grief, there was something in me that wanted to help other people going through what I was going through. I didn't know how, I didn't know what would unfold, but I just knew that feeling was part of my grief. And I think that comes back to honouring how you're feeling in the moment of any day, and following those urges, because now I know that that's soul talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. But back then, and I see it all the time in clients, like grief shaking them up. I just had a client last week who'd lost her partner about 8 months ago, and before that time, before he passed, she had no concept of her spirituality and neither had he, and now she's studying life coaching and wants to help people with grief and stuff, and it's so early days. It's 8 months down the track.
Absolutely. Yes, and sometimes it's not death that you're grieving. Like, sometimes it's cancer. Like, sometimes those life-altering diagnoses are the things that create new space and deeper connection for people. It happens all the time.
Yeah, and divorce.
Oh, yes. That is a spiritual experience in itself.
Yes, absolutely. So it's certainly, there's all sorts of experience that does produce a grief for us. But if we look for that purpose, if we look for what's the gift in it, however long that takes, it's that's for me, that's what gets us through. That's what keeps us going. And the human spirit it's phenomenal.
It is.
Really, when every day, I work with people with their stories, or I can remember a few years ago I used to volunteer doing Reiki in a cancer therapy unit locally here. And you would often hear their stories of they weren't just coping with their own cancer, like they'd had, their mum or dad, or they'd have just lost someone as well, or there was usually in their life 3 or 4 things of that kind of nature going on, and you just would walk out going, my God, people are so strong. The human spirit is just, it's phenomenal, really.
Absolutely. Like we're capable of way more than we know. And sometimes we don't come to the awareness of our capacity until we're debilitated.
Yeah, until, we feel like we're on our knees.
Absolutely. And then all of a sudden, here comes a second wind or a third wind. Like, it's amazing. I'm really, really happy that I incarnated as a woman and in this time and space. It's such a phenomenal time to be alive. Contrary to what people see on the news, it is truly a really brilliant time to exist.
I would agree. And even just, you're right, there are moments, and this is one of them where I'm sitting here going, it's friggin' awesome to be a woman.
Yes, absolutely. It's awesome to be a woman.
And to be in the space that we're in, and to be sharing and helping others, and to, be connected to our sexuality and all that part of it. Yeah, it is. It's freaking awesome.
Absolutely. I have the entire universe between my legs. What is more powerful than that?
Nothing.
I mean, I am literally a portal. A spirit incarnated in my body and is now walking around the planet. That shit is potent.
That's exactly right. That's when it's magic.
It is. There was nothing, and then there was something, and now it exists outside of me.
Yeah, and when you think about that, and you really think about how magical this is, it's powerful shit, because it's okay, what can I do?
Absolutely. Everything else, it's how strong are you? I gave birth to a human. That's how, what do you mean?
Yeah, and no limits.
Absolutely. There are none. It's
no limit.
I can make cookies, I can bake bread, and I make babies. I mean, I'm not making any more, but I did do that one time.
I'm with you. I'm not making any more either.
No more of that. But I'm just saying, the being able to do that, it's kind of ridiculous when we think that we can't do something.
Yeah, that it is, because the only thing that's stopping you from doing anything is you telling yourself that story.
Absolutely. And if we can just remember, okay, I've gone, and even for people that never had children, there is some major, big, giant thing. And it doesn't have to measure up to someone else's major, big, giant thing. But there's some major, big, giant, challenging, hard thing that you've had to do. And if you've done that thing, you can do anything. Yeah.
And maybe, they're destined to be a particular person's adoptive parents.
Yes, absolutely. And that, I hear, is even harder than birthing your own children. Because it comes with a whole different set of things. Or even if you become a step parent and you have to, and to someone else's child, I have a stepdaughter. It's a lot. So even that is amazing. And it is this magical thing. If you can relate to another human being, you're winning. Because it's challenging. Everyone comes with their own stuff. everyone comes with even not just with what they acquired once they got here, but anything that they carried over from another time. Like, there's a lot of stuff to deal with another person. If you are a good friend to someone, if you got almost cut off today and you didn't do something crazy to the other driver, you're winning.
Yes.
Because and it also, like, the fact that you exist. Do you know the odds of becoming a human? I don't know what they are, but it must be like a really slim pickings.
I don't know, but I know one of my sayings is, as I said, hitting 50, and it's not a privilege given to everyone.
No, it is not. Absolutely. And if you're unsure, you can go through your local obituary right now.
Exactly.
And find someone that didn't make it to whatever age you are.
Yes. And so, the fact that you're here, the fact that we're here, it's a cause for celebration.
This has been such a great conversation. I have enjoyed myself thoroughly.
Me too, Stacey. I've loved every minute of it as well. It's a great way to Tuesday morning here in Sydney, Australia. So I have enjoyed my morning immensely.
Look, and we're time traveling because it's still Monday here. Like how genius is that?
Exactly.
Look, and who says time travel isn't real? It's absolutely real. Before you go, I want to ask one last question. And this is a question that I ask of every single woman that I chat with. How do you look? And it's especially poignant today. How do you like to be taken care of after sex? Because, endings matter. Like, a bad ending can fuck up the whole experience. It could have been really great. And then at the end, the person does something and it ruins everything.
No, it's more naked cuddles.
Mm-hmm.
It's more talking. Yeah, just closeness. It's more of that closeness. Just, naked cuddles and talking.
Intimacy, my favorite.
Yes.
That's fantastic. Well, I'm so grateful for you. I'm so happy for the space that you're in. And I know, like, so much, like, we still got a little bit of time left in this year. I have a feeling that it's going to be really expansive for you in this last quarter.
Oh, thank you, Stacey. And I'm just so grateful that, we could have a chat today and coming on your sensuality project and just really a sister energy feeling, just with where you're at with,
I agree.
With motherhood and all of that, and just grateful for your space too, just keep doing what you're doing, because this podcast that you have here, it's doing great work, and I too feel like it's going to from even now, I feel like it's going to expand.
I receive. Look, I receive.
Yes.
I receive. The Sensuality Project is produced, edited, and hosted by me. Music by bensound.com. The Sensuality Project podcast is a production of StaceyHerrera.com.